Your last cheap meal is vanishing right now, and no one warns you about it. Right now. Something unthinkable is happening across America. The quiet collapse of everyday fast food. In just 6 months, over 1,800 fast food locations have shut down nationwide, and it hurts most in working-class suburbs, college towns, and the heart of rural America. Major chains are cutting unprofitable locations to survive, but in doing so, they're abandoning the very people who made them famous. As inflation keeps rising and budgets get tighter, families who once relied on a $6 combo meal are being left with nothing. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal, and today, we expose the 15 fast food chains closing locations right now. Let's begin with the most shocking one, but I see where. Number 1. KFC. What if the last place your family could still afford to share a hot meal quietly disappeared overnight? There was a time when KFC was everywhere, opening more than 5,000 locations across the United States. In the 1990s, the chain was a weekend treat, a familiar red and white beacon where families celebrate small victories, a good report card, a payday, a Sunday gathering after church. At its peak, KFC wasn't just a fast food brand, it was part of American life. But today, the story reads very differently. Since 2020, nearly 70 KFC restaurants have closed across the US, and just in the last 12 months, 35 more vanished without warning. Entire regions have been abandoned. Louisiana has seen a full retreat, with stores in Jennings, Crowley, Eunice, and Sulphur all shuttered. No announcements, no press coverage. Staff members discovered the closures only when they showed up to locked doors with paper signs taped to the glass. The reasons aren't surprising, at least not on paper. Rising food prices, higher wages, declining foot traffic as families struggle to afford eating out. Yum Brands, KFC's parent company, is shifting its strategy. They're closing down unprofitable locations instead of investing in the aging stores located in working-class neighborhoods. To executives in a distant boardroom, it might just be a line on a spreadsheet, but to the people left behind, it's a hollowing out of daily life. In small towns, KFC served more than fried chicken. It was a stop for truck drivers at midnight, a refuge for an elderly couple sharing a quiet lunch, a place where a single mother could buy dinner for 3 with a $10 bill and still have change. Now, those moments are harder to come by, and in many places, impossible. What replaces them? Empty storefronts, long drives to unfamiliar cities, a sense that the companies once built for ordinary people have quietly moved on. And that's the wound most don't see. This isn't just about chicken, it's about disappearing access, disappearing memories, a disappearing sense that everyday people matter. When the last affordable meal slips away in silence, it leaves more than hunger, but questions about the lives of Americans with low income, and while fried chicken may have vanished from some towns. What happens when your morning coffee is next? Let's turn now to Starbucks. Number 2, Starbucks. What if your local coffee shop closed not because it went bankrupt, but because it simply wasn't safe anymore? That's exactly what's happening. In 2024, Starbucks confirmed the closure of at least 7 locations across San Francisco. According to NBC Bay Area, these weren't struggling suburban outlets. They were once thriving stores located in the heart of the city, where morning crowds used to stretch out the door. Now, those doors are locked, and they're not alone. Over 20 other Starbucks locations across major cities like Seattle, Portland, and Philadelphia have either shut down or are under review. The places that once felt like community living rooms are vanishing. Starbucks says the decision stems from rising crime, physical assaults, theft, and the daily threat of violence. Store managers and baristas have reported feeling unsafe, sometimes even fearing for their lives. Customers, too, have started staying away. What used to be a casual stop for a $4 coffee has become a risk not worth taking. But this isn't just about security protocols or corporate policy. It's about something deeper. The stores being shuttered aren't the upscale drive-thrus in high-income zip codes. They're the walk-in shops in busy downtowns, the ones where janitors grab their morning brew, where retirees rest with a warm cup, where part-time students work the register for just enough to pay rent. When these locations disappear, so do the everyday people who once relied on them, not just for caffeine, but for connection, routine, and a moment of calm in a chaotic world. And the consequences stretch further than an empty storefront. as Starbucks reorients its focus toward drive-through models far from city centers. Something unsettling emerges, a shift away from serving local people on foot toward catering to car owners and suburban professionals. The result, inner cities become commercial deserts for working-class residents. A cup of coffee, once the simplest form of participation in public life, now feels like a luxury reserved for someone else. One former barista, laid off after her store closed in Philadelphia, summed it up: "I didn't lose a job. I lost the one place I felt useful." And that's the deeper story about the quiet removal of spaces that once belonged to everyone, when even your daily cup of coffee becomes too much to ask for. What part of everyday life is still safe? But the retreat doesn't stop there. While cafes vanish from the sidewalk, another familiar name is pulling away from your local lunch hour. Number 3, Chick-fil-A. What does it mean when even the nicest fast food chain, the one known for smiles, manners, and family values, also starts disappearing from your neighborhood? That quiet question is echoing across suburbs and small towns where Chick-fil-A was once a weekend tradition. In 2024, the company shut down over 12 locations across North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, as reported by Eat This, Not That. These closures didn't come with fanfare. No press releases, no community meetings, just locked doors, confused customers, and employees suddenly unemployed. More than 1,500 staff, many of them students and part-time workers, were affected in these silent retreats. What's driving this unexpected unraveling? Costs. Not just any costs, but the subtle ones that creep up in places you don't expect. Lease prices in mid-sized cities and suburban retail strips have surged, making even well-performing stores less profitable. At the same time, the fast food battlefield is changing as consumers increasingly choose mobile ordering and drive-through convenience. Chick-fil-A's traditional dine-in model, friendly service at a table, refills brought with a smile, suddenly feels like a luxury. In response, the company is pivoting hard. New investments are flowing into premium drive-through locations that serve more customers, faster, with less overhead. The classic neighborhood Chick-fil-A, it's being left behind, and with it, something deeper is being lost. For many families, especially in the South and Midwest, Chick-fil-A wasn't just food, it was safety, clean tables, friendly faces, a rare place where parents felt confident taking their young kids out to eat, without chaos, without worry. For young workers, it was one of the few fast food jobs that offered structure, kindness, and a sense of pride. When these places vanish, it's not just about chicken sandwiches, but about the erosion of the rare public spaces where working families still felt welcomed. There's also something harder to name: a quiet shift in trust. Chick-fil-A was long seen as a brand that would never leave, that if any restaurant could endure through inflation and change, it was this one. But now, even that sense of reliability is fading. One by one, the cornerstones of everyday life are being pulled from beneath people's feet, and when even the nicest fast food chain quietly packs up and leaves. What kind of message does that send to the people who counted on it? Maybe this isn't just a business decision. Maybe it's the start of something deeper, a quiet unraveling of places that made us feel normal. But if you think that's the end of it, wait until you see what's melting away next, because even the ice cream shops we loved as kids are vanishing. Number 4, Baskin-Robbins. What if your birthday cake flavor, the one you grew up with, simply vanished, not just from the freezer, but from your entire neighborhood? That bittersweet goodbye is already happening across America. Between June 2022 and June 2023, Baskin-Robbins quietly closed 64 locations, according to data from Scrape Hero. And the pace isn't slowing. This year alone, 8 shops in Kansas and 13 in North Carolina are preparing to shut their doors for good. No banners, no farewell parties, just silence, and another familiar light going out on Main Street. For a generation raised on rainbow sherbet and clown cones, it feels like losing more than ice cream. It's the closing of a memory behind the counter. The reasons are cold and calculated. Baskin-Robbins now accounts for less than 6% of the total revenue of Inspire Brands, a far cry from its sister brand Dunkin' Donuts, which brings in 74%. In the eyes of corporate strategy, Baskin's nostalgic charm doesn't carry enough weight. It's not mobile friendly, it's not trendy, and in today's economy, Slow scoop counters lose out to grab-and-go novelty chains and prepackaged freezers at convenience stores. Add in rising refrigeration costs and stagnant sales, and many franchise owners are walking away, even if it breaks their heart. But the collapse doesn't just live in numbers, in small towns and working-class neighborhoods. Baskin-Robbins was more than dessert. It was a place where grandparents treated grandkids after school, where birthday parties had sparkler candles and chocolate fudge smiles, a place where teenagers on their first date nervously split a sundae. Now, those simple joys are melting into the past. The price of a scoop has climbed above $4 in most areas, and with fewer locations, that special treat is further away both in distance and in spirit. Parents today are starting to realize something unsettling: the places they once promised to take their children might not be there when the time comes. As one father said quietly outside a closed Baskin-Robbins in Kansas, "I told my son I'd bring him here like my dad did for me, but now I can't keep that promise. When even the cheapest scoop of joy melts away, we lose more than a sweet taste. We lose a part of the ritual that made life feel warm, safe, and shared." And if dessert can disappear this easily, what does that say about dinner? Because now, even chains like Hardee's, built on hearty meals and highway stops, are starting to falter. Let's take a closer look. Number 5. Hardee's. For decades, it was the only hot breakfast on the highway, the scent of sizzling sausage greeting truckers before dawn, the last warm stop for a working-class parent dropping their kid at school. But now, it's vanishing like fog at sunrise. Across the American South and Midwest, the Hardee's name is disappearing from highway signs and strip mall corners. In just 2 years, over 213 Hardee's restaurants have been listed for closure after Summit Restaurant Holdings, the brand's largest franchise operator, filed for bankruptcy, according to Restaurant Business. The toll is heaviest in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Kansas, Missouri, and Wyoming. In some states, entire clusters of 15 to 35 locations have gone dark, many without warning, without even a farewell cup of coffee. It didn't happen overnight, but the cracks have been spreading for years. Since 2018, Hardee's has been quietly losing ground. Inflation chipped away at the morning budget. A biscuit that once cost $2.99 now struggles to stay under $5. For millions of Americans, especially those working early shifts, breakfast is no longer a small comfort. It's a luxury, and when the foot traffic dropped, the debt piled up. With operating costs rising and fewer customers walking in, locations in lower income areas were the first to be abandoned. But what gets lost isn't just a building or a brand, it's a rhythm of daily life for early morning workers. Hardee's wasn't just about food, it was routine. A quick breakfast, a nod from the cashier who remembered your order, a moment of warmth before a long day for retirees in small towns. It was a gathering place where old friends traded stories over black coffee and hash browns. For drivers on endless highways, it was a reliable beacon, hot, hearty, and human. Now, those places are dark, replaced by gas station vending machines, cold granola bars, and silence. One retired school bus driver in Missouri said, "That was my morning. Same table, same biscuit, every day. I didn't realize how much I needed it until it was gone. When the morning meal fades with the mist, we're left with more than hunger. We're left with a quiet absence where warmth once lived, a reminder that even the smallest parts of our routine can disappear without a sound." But the breakfast table isn't the only thing under threat. Even chains that once seemed too big, too bold, too American to fall like Arby's are now retreating. And what's happening there may signal something even more alarming. Number 6. Arby's. You might still crave the curly fries, the kind that warmed your hands during cold lunch breaks, or sat next to your roast beef sandwich on a long afternoon drive, but don't be surprised if they're no longer there tomorrow. Arby's, a brand that once offered a distinct alternative to burger-heavy menus, is now facing a quiet, grinding retreat. According to CNBC, system-wide sales fell 8.7% in Q1 and tumbled further by 11.5% in Q2 of 2023. It's not just numbers on a balance sheet, it's a slow unraveling. Long-standing locations in cities like Santa Maria, California, Houston, and San Antonio, Texas, and even San Francisco have shuttered their doors. Industry insiders now forecast an 8% nationwide reduction in total Arby's locations by the end of 2024. Behind these closures is a harsh economic undercurrent. Franchise owners, many of whom operate only a few locations, are being choked by high-interest loans and the impossibility of refinancing. Inflation has made food supplies and energy costs painfully expensive. Meanwhile, fewer people are dining in, and the brand's traditional storefront model struggles to keep up. Arby's has been trying to renegotiate leases and restructure debts, but when those talks fall through, the only option left is closure, and when that happens, more than just sandwiches disappear. For many middle-aged workers, Arby's was a simple, quiet lunch, $8 filling, and just enough to get through the day. In suburban communities, it offered a rare fast food menu without a burger, something different, familiar, and oddly comforting. Small towns that once had 2 or 3 Arby's outlets now have none. It's not just about roast beef, it's about the spaces we've lost. Tables where coworkers caught up during a 30-minute break. Counters where retirees sat for a cheap meal and conversation. Places that were never fancy, but always enough. One regular in San Antonio shared this quietly. "I didn't need much, just my sandwich, my fries, and a quiet booth, but even that seems too much now, when roast beef and curly fries are no longer within reach. We don't just lose a meal, we lose a rhythm of life. One less routine, one less thing to count on. And if even those routines are fading, what does that mean for places built to celebrate? Because even chains once known for birthday dinners and family milestones like TGI Fridays are now dimming their lights. Let's see why. Number 7. TGI Fridays. Remember when Friday night meant mozzarella sticks, laughter, and a booth by the window? A small celebration at the end of a long week, surrounded by neon signs and birthday songs echoing from the next table. For many families, it wasn't just a restaurant, it was the destination, the reward, the promise of one night that felt just a little bit special. But those Fridays are fading fast. In just 2 years, TGI Fridays has closed nearly 100 locations across the United States, shrinking from 386 stores in 2021 to only 286 by the end of 2023, a drop of almost 26%. Entire regions, including large parts of Texas and Massachusetts, have seen their local Fridays vanish without return. The company has stopped expanding in the US altogether. Instead, it's pouring resources into opening 75 new locations across Asia, effectively turning its back on the American communities that once built its name. The collapse isn't sudden, it's slow, quiet, and deeply revealing. The pandemic crushed casual dine-in chains, and while others limped back, Fridays never fully recovered. Sales dropped by 80% during COVID, and unlike fast food giants, its model didn't adapt well. With high rent, rising wages, and fewer families dining out, the math no longer works. What used to feel festive is now financially fragile, but the numbers don't capture the full loss. For countless families, TGI Fridays was the go-to spot for birthdays, graduations, and first dates. It wasn't high-end, but it was just enough of a treat to feel like an event. For restaurant workers, it offered a rare mix of stability and energy: bartenders who built friendships with regulars, waiters who remembered favorite orders, kitchen staff who worked the same grill for years. In medium-sized towns, it was one of the few places that felt both affordable and worth dressing up for. A soft glow in the heart of the community. Now, those lights are dimming. And the feeling that Friday night is something to look forward to, it's dimming too. One former waitress in Massachusetts put it simply, "It's not just a job gone, it's where I watched families grow, where people came back every year to the same booth. When Fridays no longer feel like Friday, we start to lose more than restaurants, we lose ritual. The small, predictable joys that made life feel a little more livable. And if even our spots for celebration are vanishing, what happens when chains built on boldness, noise, and spectacle like Hooters begin going dark too? That's where we're headed next. Number 8. Hooters. Love it or hate it, Hooters was a fixture of American dining culture for over 40 years, but now it's fading without a sound. From 321 locations at the start of 2023, the count has dropped to 306 and continues to shrink every quarter. According to Scrape Hero, no press releases, no statements, just dark windows and silent closings across cities like Atlanta, Tampa, and Las Vegas, places where Hooters once buzzed with sports fans. birthday parties, and after-work meetups. Its decline reflects a deeper cultural shift. The brand's once famous image no longer aligns with evolving public values. Behind the scenes, poor management decisions, failed business experiments, and lingering post-pandemic debt have taken a toll. Newer competitors with sleeker designs, inclusive branding, and more flexible menus have moved in and taken over. But with each closure, something larger slips away. Hooters was more than a theme. It was one of the few late-night food spots in many suburbs, a casual hangout, and an easy entry employer for thousands in the service industry. Now, workers lose jobs, communities lose gathering spots, and regulars lose a strange but familiar comfort when even the boldest brands begin to whisper goodbye. Something louder is crumbling beneath us all. Number 9. Steak and Shake. Once the beating heart of Midwest late nights, now just another boarded-up memory. Between 2021 and 2023, Steak and Shake shuttered 24 restaurants, 8 company-owned, and 16 franchises according to Restaurant Dive. Most closures hit the Midwest hardest: Indiana, Illinois, Missouri. For a brand once hailed for its 24/7 hours and sit-down meals under neon lights, the decline feels like the dimming of an entire era. The issues run deep. Average store revenue has fallen steadily over 5 years. Complaints about food quality and service have surged. The diner-style setup with waitstaff and table service now struggles to survive in a world of mobile orders and curbside pickups. Maintaining that experience simply costs too much, and what's disappearing isn't just burgers and shakes, but the culture around them. Steak and Shake was the local go-to where families gathered for cheap milkshakes, where teens got their first job, where grandparents told stories over fries. Losing it means losing a thread of small-town identity, where generations once overlapped over simple meals, when even the most dependable small-town burger joint gives up. It's not just a meal, it's a goodbye to a way of life. Number 10. Papa Murphy's. Once the go-to for take-and-bake family dinners, now struggling to survive in its own kitchen. Papa Murphy's. Once hailed as the most affordable way to feed a family of 4 for under $12 is shrinking fast. In 2022 alone, the chain closed 72 franchise locations, and system-wide sales dropped 11.4%, according to MTY Group. Stores outside the Pacific Northwest have struggled the most, with 32 locations reporting zero profit since mid-2022. Alarmingly, 5.8% of the company's entire network is now labeled as underperforming. What once felt like a cozy, cost-saving ritual, picking up a fresh pizza to bake at home, is clashing with modern habits. Consumers prefer delivery, not DIY. Meanwhile, rising ingredient costs and labor wages have forced price hikes, but many loyal customers simply can't afford the new menu. MTY Food Group, Papa Murphy's parent company, has missed investor expectations and is now under shareholder pressure to restructure. The impact ripples outward. Working-class families lose an affordable, healthier pizza alternative. Suburban households, especially seniors who prefer home-cooked meals, lose a nostalgic comfort, and small ingredient suppliers in local towns lose their steady partners. When even the take-home meal gets taken away, what choices remain for working families? Number 11. Bojangles. You could once find Bojangles on every southern highway. Now entire cities are being wiped off their map. The iconic southern chain has closed all its stores in Jacksonville, Florida, and many more across North Carolina and Tennessee, according to QSR Magazine. A major restructuring began in Q3 2023, but the company has yet to release official totals, fueling fears that more closures are quietly underway. Behind the scenes, Bojangles is chasing a new identity. The CEO has announced plans to pivot away from chicken business toward a more elevated dining experience. That includes closing underperforming southern stores and opening new ones in upscale markets like Los Angeles. The menu will also see price increases to reflect what they call premium quality. For loyal customers in the South, it feels like a betrayal. Cajun fried chicken and buttermilk biscuits weren't just food, they were culture. Communities that depended on a cheap, comforting meal now face empty storefronts. And what's replacing them doesn't feel familiar or accessible. When the South loses its biscuit and chicken, it's not just food, it's culture being cleared off the plate. Number 12. Raising Cane's. Built on chicken fingers and college town loyalty, but even loyalty can't stop a shutdown. From 2022 to 2024, Raising Cane's has quietly closed all its locations on multiple college campuses due to declining profitability. According to Business Insider, several urban branches in high-crime neighborhoods have also been shut down. Though the company hasn't disclosed the exact number of closures, it is confirmed that a major asset reallocation is underway. The reasons stretch beyond finances. The supply chain has faltered chicken, cooking oil, and core ingredients have become harder to secure consistently. At the same time, rising crime near stores has scared away both customers and staff. Even in college areas, once the brand's strongest base student spending habits have shifted. Delivery apps, budget meals, and food insecurity have reshaped the lunch hour, and the fallout touches every corner. Students lose one of the last hot meals under $10 with real protein. Urban communities lose access to safe, fast food after dark. Young part-time workers, many of them women, lose a rare job that offered flexible hours near school or home. And perhaps most subtly, cities lose a little bit of energy, youth, and movement, when even the chain made for college kids can't survive on campus. The system is failing the next generation, too. These weren't just places to eat. They were part of our daily rhythm, the $5 lunch, the late-night coffee, the birthday booth. Now they're fading, quietly, without outrage, and with them goes a piece of our ordinary life, warm, affordable, and shared, when even fast food becomes too expensive to exist. What's left for the rest of us? Not just fewer options, but a future where comfort is priced out and community disappears in silence. If you felt something watching this, share it, because if we don't notice what we're losing now, we may not recognize what's left tomorrow.